Hi everyone, it is Mickey here from A Pretty Talent and the Waterwell Ministries, and I am back with the fourth video in the Lesson 3 series of the Art Journaling course. And in this one, I've decided I'm just going to quickly share the material that I have gathered to use. I have a traditional eraser and sharpener here. I have the sandpaper block here. I have both a white and a black coloring pencil here. These are oil color pencils, the Brute pencils, the 001 and 002 pencils, for those of you who want to know. And these you can buy on Temu. They come in sets of 6 white, 6 black, or 12 white, 12 black, but you can order them separately from the Brute pencils, which is very handy to know. I've got a sketch eraser pencil. This is a pencil in the form of a pen. I always do that the wrong way around. An eraser in the form of a pencil. I've got my paper stumps here. I'm going to pull one out. It's a pretty medium-sized one. And I'll leave the rest on the side. I tend to work with one. So the others are, well, I doubt I'll be using the others. In any case, then I have my set of 12 pencils, and I've talked about these before. They range from 2H, including an F, up to 8B. I can't remember whether I've actually talked about the numbering of pencils. So you have right in the center of your range, you have the HB pencil, the one that we all know from school. And the HB pencil, it stands for hard black. Now your B range is then your black range, and your H range is your hard range. And the blacker, the higher the B range, the softer the lead, the more of, well, it's actually it's graphite these days. It's no longer lead. The softer the graphite inside the pencil, and the more of the graphite will remain on the page. The harder the graphite, the higher the H range, the softer the line that it's going to leave, because less of the graphite is left on the page. And then in between there, in between your H and your HB, you have an F. Now the F pencil really, there's nobody actually knows what it stands for, not that I've come across. But it is so close to the HB that I am not sure what the reason for its existence is. So it's smack in the middle of the H and the HB, and those two are already very closely related. But in any case, that's your F pencil to make sense of for yourselves. I am going to try to remember to use my glove. Why am I doing this? Okay, so that's how your glove sits on your hand. And it's not how it sits on your hand. I am so confused this morning. It sits like this, and it's so much more comfortable when you've got it the right way. Because you want to be able to handle your drawing tools without a glove, and then just have the glove rest on the page. I don't know. I just laugh at me, please. I'm laughing at myself. I'm going to start by journaling Luke 11:2b. Our Father is in heaven, hallowed be your name. And we said we were going to do this in graphite pencil. So I'm going to simply flip this over. And what I've given this a lot of thought, and wondered how I was going to journal this. Now, there's a couple of considerations that I need to bear in mind. I kind of liked a number of ideas here. I liked the idea of this one, this picture here. Let me just get it in line. So this being infused with Holy Spirit, all the different infusions here, I liked that. It felt to me that that would be a sweet aroma going up to God. And I really, really like the idea of this one. But at the same time, I need to consider that this course is intended for people who are just starting out in art. And that's not a good starting point. So I decided to leave that one be. Then I like the idea of this one as well, the abundance of fruit, which is again, when we bear an abundance of fruit, that is hallowing God's name. In a sense, we're bringing our gifts to the altar. But again, quite possibly not the best one to start on, too complicated. So then I decided, how about I go for this one? This is rather simple. It's got a very simple shape, twigs, whatever. Don't look at the complicated background, that's watercolor. But just looking at the shapes, this is a rather simple one. What I liked about this was that this is pointing upwards. So pointing towards God, again, that's sort of the impression of raising your hands to the Lord. So I liked that one. And then I decided, okay, so I like the idea of that, but maybe combine this idea. Let me put these two together like that, then it's easier to see. Combining this idea with that idea, considering I'm speaking to people starting out in art. Well, that's what the course is intended for. If you're already further along the way, then feel free to veer off the simple drawings and go your own route. Now, what I liked about this is that the line drawings clarifies the shapes a little bit more. And we are going to be working with shapes. Even though I talked about planes in my previous video, or one of the previous videos, I am going to be working with shapes for now, because shapes is where you start out from when doing art. Shall I do 2 pairs or 1? I am so on 2 minds about this. I am going to start drawing with no, let me not. This is the F pencil. Let me start with the F pencil. I'm starting with a harder lead, so that the lead will leave a fainter outline on the backdrop. But I don't want the outline to be so faint that you can't actually see this. And so with that in mind, I'm sort of switching from the 2H to the F. I'm just quickly checking that the recording is taking place, because yeah, I've had some bad luck yesterday with recordings. Now, where do I go with this? Let me start really, really simple. I'm going to start on a single pair. So I'm going to put my 2 reference pictures right here. Yep, they're a little difficult to put right here. Let me fold this one over. Let me actually do the same here. It is just paper. Okay, now it's so much simpler for me to have my 2 reference pictures right at my side, just checking that I'm still the right way up. Okay, so we have essentially a circle and a circle in a circle. And that's what I'm going to teach you to draw. I'm going to do an overhand drawing here. A circle and a circle and a circle. And when I now start, and let me erase this. What's happened with my eraser? Let me show you what I do. I don't want to tear the paper away altogether, because once we start creating art, very often our hands get dirty with the graphite or the charcoal or whatever it is that we're using. And then it's nice to have your eraser in an encasing so that dirt or that medium isn't transferred to your eraser. But just tearing off the edge like that, that's going to still give you a paper, but with an exposed point. Now, I'm not erasing the lines completely. I want to use those as guidelines. But I can now start drawing this pair, and I want to pay attention to the fact that there's a little bit of an indent there. And I can now start drawing the shape of the pear around these circles that I've created. Now, once I've got that shape there, I can then start drawing in the details. So there's a stem of sorts going there. It's not clear exactly what's going on there, but something like that. Right. There's a bit of shading over here, which we can start putting in. There's no reason why we can't. There's a bit of shading over here. We have a darker shade on this side. So we can start giving ourselves indications like that. Now, there's a shadowy area here that we want to take note of. And there's a shadowy area here that we want to take note of. There's very much a highlight over here and a bit of shadowing on the side. There is a shading happening here. And you'll see I'm just coloring. I'm just putting in some really faint shadow lines here. Then there is quite a pronounced shadowy outline here. Much more pronounced than elsewhere. There is something happening over here in terms of shading and shadowing and whatever it is. And there is something happening over here as well. Something to that effect. Let me just do the shadowing here. Okay. Now those are color nuances and shadows and shades and things and all sorts of things like that. I may have a bit of a pronounced line here. I'd have to soften this line up a bit. And I can come in with my pencil eraser to help assist with correcting that line. There is a line there, but there's another line coming here. Okay, so my pear is more or less intact now. And now I need to decide where do I want to go from this point on. I don't want to create the other person's work of art, but I am going to rely rather heavily for this painting still or drawing still on what the other person has created, because this is a first time artist's attempt. Let's not overcomplicate this. Let me now veer off. I'm not going to do all the tweaks and the details and the things. I'm certainly not going to do all of those details. I'm now going to veer off from that, and I'm going to just include that leaf should come out wider, and let this one just come out from here. You can disappear behind the other one, why not? Maybe come in there. Right, and then there's a bit of a line coming here. There's a bit of a line coming here. There is a bit of a line coming here. There are some lines coming out. They do kind of meet, but not exactly. So there are again some lines coming out. And that's going to be more or less our painting, our drawing. So we are going to give this a stem. Now we can see there are some things on the stem. These seem like thorns. I'm not familiar with pear trees. Do they have thorns? Because this certainly seems to be thorns. Let's bring this line in here, but I'm not going to finish it too much. I'm just giving it somewhere to go. Okay, and that'll be enough, honestly. To what extent do I want to do this? Let's not overcomplicating things. So that is my F pencil. And let me now switch to a mid-tone. And what is my mid-tone here? I'm going to go to a 4B pencil. And I'm now going to start developing these mid-tones. Let me do this with some cross-hatching. There's another bright spot here, which I've missed, that we need to keep white as well. Just erasing my construction lines there. And then there's another bright spot over here. Okay. So I'm now using hatching and cross-hatching to do my initial shading with. And these are going to be called my midtones. That's pretty much what I'm creating here are the midtones. Now, this is way darker. And I'll keep developing those. But you can already see that my pear is starting, or that the pear is starting to take shape. Just because we are adding that first layer of shading. And I'm allowing myself a little bit to be led by this. I'm going to switch to, which one do I want to go to? I want to start working on the dark areas. Just maybe a little early, but let me. really dark areas are here. And now I'm going to start doing some contour hatching and cross hatching. And so I have switched to my 8B pencil, so this is a really dark one, but I am working rather lightly, not putting the pencil down very heavily here. Shaping the pear as I'm going along. I want more shadow in this area here. And it might seem as if I'm coloring, but I am actually lifting my pencil in between the lines. So this is not coloring, this is hatching and cross hatching that I'm doing. And as I'm developing this, you will start to see the pear starting to take shape. I think I'm going to take my jersey off first because the sun is slightly coming out and it's heating up a little bit, finally. We've had 3 days of rather cold weather. I'm going to switch over to the 6B now. And I'm going to start filling in areas with the 6B. Some contouring there. And let me go to the 2B. Yeah, that should be good here. So I'm doing a lot of switches of pencils. And I'm doing this deliberately so that you can become familiar with the tools that we are using. But also, I'm at this stage pretty much maintaining the same kind of pressure and rather switching tools than applying more or less pressure. Now, honestly, if you've been drawing for a while, you probably will not be switching your tools, but rather your pressure points. Now I'm going to come in with a paper stump. And when I start blending this now, it is going to start to take shape. More so than what it has done up to this point. Well, I don't like the mess that I've created on this side. So I'm going to come in with my eraser and just get rid of that mess there. Now, we have not included in a kneaded eraser in this parcel. Probably somewhere along the line in this course I will be doing that. But I figured I'm going to just start you out. Can you see how things are already starting to shape out? Now I can see that there are areas that I want to lighten already. I think they've already become too dark. And there are areas that still needs to be much darker. So let me go with the darker first. I'm now using circular motions to fill in these dark spots. My pear does not have shape if I don't develop these two areas there. That's going to help give my pear a little bit of shape. I should stop saying my pear, the pear. Well, we need to take ownership of our drawings as well. And somewhere out there someone's going to be making, yeah, never mind. I've got the 8B pencil in my hand. I didn't say that. And I'm using it very, very lightly because the 8B pencil is very dark. So now switch to my eraser pencil, and I'm using this overhand because I am returning the light to the drawing. In other words, in areas I am not erasing, but rather just stepping it back a little bit. And then in this center spot here, I did erase quite substantially. I want to make this one larger, and I want to add that essential spot. Now I am blowing on this with my breath because once I start rubbing on it, it's going to be a nuisance. That, by the way, is one of the reasons why you will use, I'm just trying to find the right pencil here, 6B, 8B, it's not what I'm looking for, 2B. It's why you will use a putty eraser, a soft eraser. It's not going to leave a residue on your paper. and that's one of the main reasons. So you don't have to come in here and lift away the eraser residue if you're using a putty eraser. That shape. I think I'm slightly overthinking this, but anyways, full beam. Some contour shading, pressing a little bit harder with my 8B pencil. And I want to come back in with my blender. Just tie all this together a bit. Okay, now I'm just cleaning up my page here. Okay. Oh, come on, page. There we go. Okay, so, having done that, let's look at adding texture. And I'm going to be using stippling to add texture. Now I don't want this to start looking porous, but there is here's a very definite texture on pears that needs to be considered. Soften that. So I'm using the clean side of my paper stump to soften the texture, because I don't want this bed to look dotted either. You know, I need to stop faffing. Okay, let's rather talk about what to do here on the leaves. And what I'm going to do is to lay down an initial shade with my paper stump. So this is something it's actually a nice feature of the paper stump, that it will pick up your colors and take it to another area. And you can see when I do that, is that 4B? Here it is. I'm doing a lot of the work with the paper stump already, that I won't have to go back and do again. This is some contour cross hatching that I'm doing here. I want to bring these lines back in, make them a little bit more pronounced than they've become. And you will see that I'm not drawing straight lines. I'm actually relinquishing a bit of control on these lines. Let's create the same thing on this side. Just a bit of a fold in the leaf. And I'm doing a bit of a shaky line, if you like, allowing a bit of a wiggle in the pencil. You don't want those harsh stock. When I turn this thing like this, I can see that I want the line to run there. I'll get back to that one. It's not a bad idea to turn your page from time to time and just get another perspective on what you're doing. I don't want to overly develop the leaves. I want the focal point to be down here, but I think I can do a little bit more than that. But I want to go back to this area here quickly. Yeah, I like that better. I'm sure not all pears are equal. What do I want to do with the leaf still? I am considering a couple of things. Let me start here first. Just some contour hatching in the stem. And then I want to come in with my 4B. I do there, I pretty much need to do in here as well, although less pronounced, because this is something that I essentially want to disappear or become a part of the background. This is not something that I want to be obvious in the drawing. But having said that, it is still part of the drawing. It still needs to be developed, and it's going to be very odd if the pear just hangs in the air and this goes nowhere. Has nothing to sit on. I think I need to do another one of these. Detail things on this side. Okay. I'm going to go to a smaller one here. A little bit of blending, especially here where everything meets. I want those to be softer. That's a 2B, that's the 6B. I'm adding a bit of detail with the dark pencil, and also accentuating the shadow areas at the same time. Not quite round yet. Okay. Now, what we tend to do is to stop before the picture is completely developed, not give it enough time to develop, not give it enough deep shadow areas, and when we do that, it detracts from our drawing. We're going to have areas on the leaves that are darker than others, and we need to develop those. So you would have seen that I've started with a cross-hatching for these areas, and then blended it with a paper stamp. I still feel as if this is just not coming to its own. Okay, and certainly that's now starting to come together. This leaf is differently from the other one. Doesn't have quite the same and so it shouldn't be treated the same. Okay, so let's do this. Now bear in mind, I did not want to spend time on the leaves, but okay, it's not a finished product if you don't. Okay, so and again, let's develop these shadows. More shadows on this side. need to check that the video is still recording, which it is. Fantastic. So I had forgotten to put the phone on. I'm video recording with my phone, and I had forgotten to put it on flight mode, so calls and things can come through. And what happened yesterday when I was recording is that I did receive a call, and I didn't actually know that the call had come through. It didn't ring through. I only saw that afterwards. But it had stopped the recording. And so I tried to make this mental note to put the phone on flight mode. I don't necessarily like these lines, so I'm sort of getting rid of them, but not with an eraser. Shall I leave it at that? I think yes, maybe. So that was my 2H pencil, and you saw I'm just literally putting down a couple of quick overhand lines that I can come in with this dirty paper stump and just turn into a slight background because it's a bit stark. I want this pear to have a setting and not just sit there in the middle of nowhere with nothing around it. And so the 2H pencil is the hardest pencil. That's effectively a bit of cross-hatching I'm doing there. It's except I'm not lifting my hand, but it's lines and crossing each other. Yeah, I think I just like it better when the pear has somewhere to sit. There it is. It's become so dirty. I'm cleaning up the eraser. I shouldn't do it under my... I'm just showing you what I'm doing. I'm cleaning up my eraser because it's become really dirty. I could just put it through a sharpener, but I'm not going to do that. My whites are no longer white enough. Okay, so now you can see I want a sharper point here. I'm going to use my traditional sharpener to sharpen my eraser. Into a much finer point, because I want to do just a fine line. On those areas there. Right. I think I should stop. Can you see the texture? Something in me wants to still blend this a little bit more. I can stop. There's something that I always tell people to do. If for no other reason, just to start saying it's okay. And just put a signature on something. So I'm going to try and hold this up so that you can see a little bit more clearly. Oh, let me just get rid of this eraser marks. Okay, so what I want you to pay attention to is the texture on the pear, and then the contrast in light and dark. It's equally important to develop your darks as it is to retain your light areas. I've not come in with this black pencil. I don't think it's entirely necessary. If I do, I am going to do it extremely sparingly in only the absolutely darkest of dark areas. actually looks rather nice. Yeah, I don't think I should use it too much. Okay, anyways, that is going to be it for this one. I think this is lengthy enough so that I don't have to, I shouldn't go into another one. I'll do this a separate video and do the next piece of art in a separate video, because developing a sketch to this point takes a bit of time, and yes, I'll rather see you in the next one. So be blessed, and I'll see you in the next one.